BJ Mafia, what's poppin'? So Jags fans, today is Thursday, July 20th, which means that we are officially less than 1 week away from the start of this year's Jaguars training camp, which is going to begin on July 26th. In Jags fans, not only am I extremely excited for this year's training camp, I know each and every single one of you guys is too, because it's not just with the talent on the field that we've seen from the Jaguars, right? The first year under Doug Peterson as a brand new head coach, brand new regime, new culture coming into the building. We saw what the Jaguars did last season. The Jags went 9-8. We saw a sophomore surge from our young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and the Jaguars went head-to-head all the way down to the wire with the eventual Super Bowl champions in the divisional round of the playoffs in the Kansas City Chiefs. We only lost that game by one possession for you guys that don't remember. But now the Jaguars are doing things right off the field too, right? The Jaguars aren't just getting guys to come in here and bringing the right guys via free agency in the draft. The Jaguars have a brand new state-of-the-art facility in the Miller Electric Center, and that's something that the Jaguars and us Jags fans can look forward to for the foreseeable future moving forward. And this is going to be huge to attract free agents and to get more players to come to Jacksonville. And it's just something for us fans to enjoy here in the city, the $120 million state-of-the-art facility that the Jaguars built. I know it's going to be great. I can't wait to see it physically in person. And I'm going to be there at training camp Saturday, July 29th. I know you guys are always going to be out there supporting the team, even if it's not that Saturday. I know you guys are going to hold it down for me because I can only make it to that Saturday the 29th, which is kind of unfortunate. I'd like to be there more. But with this video, I just want to get out here and I want to talk about some training camp matchups and some things I'm going to be looking forward to with training camp. Not just the day that I'm out there, that Saturday, but I want to look forward to some matchups and some things that I think are going to be extremely intriguing for the Jaguars and some roster spots moving forward. So I kind of want to sit here and talk about that with you guys here today. The first matchup I'm going to be looking forward to is with the nickel corner spot. Now, obviously, we know the Jaguars on the outside, Tyson Campbell, Darius Williams, these guys are going to hold the fort down. They're going to do some great things in the secondary, playing on the outside. The nickel corner position is going to be extremely important to see what the Jaguars do, because the Jaguars did not address it via free agency, and they really didn't draft it, and they really didn't address it via the draft too, right? When you look at the nickel corner spot outside of, like I said, Darius Williams and Tyson Campbell on the outside, you got guys like Trey Herndon, Gregory Jr., Monteric Brown. Both of those players were taken in last year's draft. And then you're also going to have two other rookies coming in, Christian Braswell from Rutgers and also Eric Hallett II from Pittsburgh. The Jaguars could definitely do some damage there if they wanted to go out there and make a splash via free agency, because the Jaguars now have $20 million in cap space. They could try to go out there and they could bring in a nickel corner to help shore up that spot, because I don't think any of these guys as of right now have proven enough to become the starting nickel. But when you look at those guys that I just listed, I think that right now that job would have to go to Trey Herndon. I believe that would be Trey Herndon's job to lose, right? He's been with the Jaguars since 2019, and yes, he's not a perfect cover corner, but he has done some great things, and he's been a very valuable piece to this defense at times. I think he's a good locker room guy. I've actually met the guy personally. He is a good guy. And I think Trey Herndon, as of right now, that's his spot to lose. But when you look at guys like Monteric Brown from Arkansas, who did some great things at the SEC, he came in last season, did a couple of things on special teams. You look at a guy like Eric Hallett, who I think actually has a lot of potential, even though he's undersized at 5'9". What he did last year for Pittsburgh, he's a very good player. And then guys like Christian Braswell and Gregory Jr., these guys all have an opportunity to go out there. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Jaguars do at that spot, because you have to also remember with this year's NFL roster shakeup, it's not just going to go incrementally down like we've seen in years past. It's going to go from a 90-man roster to a 53-man roster. So it's definitely going to be a little bit interesting to see. But moving on to the next matchup outside of the nickel corner position, I want to talk about the running back room, because I think that this is an underrated part of this Jaguars offense that really does not get talked about enough, right? There is a dynamic amount of playmakers in the backfield for the Jaguars on offense. Obviously, Travis Etienne, really in his first season playing for the Jaguars, and really his first NFL season, because he had that Liz Frank injury in his rookie year in 2021. Etienne burst out onto the scene, and obviously he was the replacement for James Robinson. Then the Jaguars took Tank Bigsby. Shout out to Bigsby, if you know, you know. Tank Bigsby from Auburn in the third round this past season, and I think he's going to be a phenomenal and dynamic playmaker for the Jaguars. And then you're also going to look in the backfield with guys like Dearness Johnson, who the Jaguars signed in free agency from the Cleveland Browns, and then also JaMycal Hasty, who the Jaguars had last season as well too. And of course, I can't forget my man Snoop Conner. And if I had to take a wild guess, I think Snoop Conner is going to have to be the odd man out of this, because he did have one touchdown last season in his rookie year versus the Houston Texans, but he didn't really show enough, and he didn't really get a lot of opportunities last year in his rookie season. You look at a guy like JaMycal Hasty, he actually made a lot of big plays for the Jaguars last year in the backfield alongside Travis Etienne. Dearness Johnson did some great things with his time up in Cleveland when Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt weren't getting the ball. And then for the Jaguars, obviously Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne, I think, are going to be the lead backs for this team, and I think that you're going to see a lot of dynamic things between these guys. I could see the Jaguars splitting these guys out wide and even having some 2 running back sets out there. It's going to be interesting to see what the Jaguars do, but that's a position group that I'm extremely excited to talk about and really to keep watching as training camp develops and continues to progress. The next one's going to be with the tight end room, and it's specifically going to be with Evan Ingram and Brenton Strange. Now, the Jaguars already made it extremely clear this past week, right before the deadline at Monday at 4 p.m. on Sunday, when the Jaguars gave Evan Ingram a long-term deal. The Jaguars had placed that franchise tag on him, which gave the Jaguars time to actually go ahead and work out a long-term contract extension with Evan Ingram. He signed a 3-year, $41 million deal. I believe $24 million of that was guaranteed off the top of my head. If I'm wrong, I do apologize, but Evan Ingram getting re-signed was huge for the Jaguars because he was a dynamic playmaker for the Jaguars on the offensive side of the ball last year, and he helped really open up this offense, especially when you talk about a guy like Doug Peterson, who's a tight end guru. This guy knows how to use his tight end sets, and we saw that plenty in Philadelphia with guys like Dallas Goedert, Brent Selleck, Zach Ertz, the list goes on. And he brought that to Jacksonville, and Evan Ingram had a career-high season last year in his first year in Jacksonville when he signed that 1-year deal. 73 receptions, 766 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he also chipped in a touchdown in the postseason as well too versus the Los Angeles Chargers. So having that matchup, even though he's established himself as tight end number 1, the Jaguars also took Brenton Strange in the 2nd round from Penn State this past year in the draft, 61st overall pick. It's going to be interesting to see how Doug Peterson kind of shakes that up too, because maybe the thought process was Brenton Strange was eventually going to become the tight end number 1 after Evan Ingram was going to be gone this year if they did not reach a long-term contract agreement, which obviously now we know Evan Ingram's here to stay for the foreseeable future. Brenton Strange, I think, is going to be an interesting player to watch out for, and I'm extremely excited to see how this guy continues to develop throughout camp, because if you saw what he did last year at Penn State, he did some really good things. There was just not a lot of targets that went his way. But when you look at what he can do with his size and athleticism, I do think that he can be a solid run-blocking tight end and a very good pass-catching tight end. He's not quite as dynamic or athletic as a guy like Evan Ingram is. There's not very many tight ends in the NFL that run a 4.41, but Evan Ingram, Brenton Strange, that's going to be a great matchup to watch. And then the last one that I really want to talk about is also going to be with the development of our 1st-round pick from the University of Oklahoma, Anton Harrison, and how he plays at the right tackle position, because the Jaguars have Cam Robinson, who's going to be suspended for the first 4 games of the season. That inserts Walker Little into the left tackle position at least for the first 4 weeks, and I'm assuming that Cam Robinson has the possibility of locking that position down full time if he continues to play at an extremely high level. But when you flip it over to the right tackle position, the Jaguars did lose Jawan Taylor, who played his ass off and had a career-high season last year for the Jaguars before he went to the Kansas City Chiefs and signed that $80 million contract. Now the Jaguars were left with a void at that right tackle position, and Anton Harrison comes in as one of the best graded tackles in the draft, and obviously Oklahoma does a great job developing offensive linemen. When you look at a guy like Trent Williams, Lane Johnson, and now Anton Harrison, he has an opportunity to establish himself as one of the greatest tackles in Jaguars history, and he has an opportunity to really showcase it this year, because if Cam Robinson was not going to be suspended, there was going to be an opportunity that Anton Harrison, Walker Little, and Cam Robinson all were still going to be fighting for starting positions. And even though I do agree with the fact that Anton Harrison was still going to be there at right tackle nonetheless, because I do believe that's what Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson drafted him for to start week 1. And I'm extremely excited to see how he continues to develop throughout training camp, because I have very high expectations for Josh Allen in the contract year and Trayvon Walker going into year 2. These guys need to feast on that defensive line, and I need to see how these tackles are gonna hold up against these guys. But Jags fans, that's it for this video. I wanna hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know, what are you guys looking forward to at training camp, and also let me know if you guys will be attending this year's training camp. Let me know the dates you guys are gonna be attending in the comments down below. But Jags fans, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys actually go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps bring the channel out tremendously. Make sure you guys also go ahead and hit the subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure you guys also go ahead and follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. But thanks again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, AKA BJ, I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.